The Memphis Grizzlies, fantasy value on this team, some value that people may not expect as well. I really like Mike Conley. I think he's going to be their number one fantasy player this season. A lot of people are scared off due to not only his Achilles injury last season, but the stats that he put up. But I think you have to disregard those numbers because he was playing with that injured heel slash Achilles, and that did bother him. In 2016-17, he was a top 30 player, and while he may not reach quite that level, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people and is a solid mid-round guy. Marc Gasol still put up strong numbers last season, even if his field goal percentage fell off a cliff, but some of that is effort related, and he was clearly unhappy with the situation. I'm not worried about a trade for either of these guys, and I think Gasol is a strong third or fourth round pick in fantasy drafts. The big steal player for me for the Grizzlies is Kyle Anderson. He was a top 100 guy in only 26 minutes for the Spurs last season. You'd have to imagine those numbers skyrocket with the Grizzlies. And while his efficiency may not be over 50% from the field, which it was in San Antonio, even a dip in that should enable him to be a top 70 player at worst for Memphis as their starting small forward, getting steals and blocks and assists and rebounds, just not a high scoring guy. The real upside guy we're looking for is Jaren Jackson Jr., who may or may not start at power forward, but is going to get run. He'll block shots, he'll hit threes. He is a fantasy dream if those minutes come, and at some point he's going to be a top 20 guy. Probably not this season, but absolutely fine to look at him in the later rounds, and if they install him as a starter over JaMychal Green to begin things off, then I think a top 100, probably even higher finish is realistic for Jackson. As for Green, I don't really care if he starts. He's not a fantasy guy that I'm looking at outside of very deep leagues. And the starting shooting guard spot, Dillon Brooks, Marshawn Brooks, Garrett Temple, Andrew Harrison, Wayne Selden. That's 5 guys to go into one position. It's pretty tough to find significant value there. Brooks put up good numbers, Dillon Brooks and Marshawn Brooks at the end of last season, but of course, the scenario now is completely different to what we were seeing in April, and I don't think that either of those guys should really be looked at as a standard fantasy player for this coming season.